So her name is Kellie. Hi, Kellie. How you doing?
Hi.
What is what?
How you doing, Ronnie? I'm good.
I don't like introducing. It sounds so weird. Like, hi, my name is Ronnie. Check out our show. So I've kind of I'm trying to convince and become second nature for Kellie to say my name so I don't have to. And I've also told you that I think I'm a good enunciator, but when I was a kid, no one would say Ronnie. They would always say Rini, or Ryan. And so it always made me like, Ronnie's not a hard name to say. Anyways.
Not at all.
Oh,
no.
Can I show you something?
Please.
Ooh,
it's 1 o'clock somewhere. This is not coffee.
Ronnie Rose is what it is.
Love it. Hashtag Ronnie Rose today.
You let's do that. Okay, cheers. I'll do a cheers. Yes. Kellie, are you ready? We're gonna do a cheers that we do a really great show. Tons of money is not pouring in, but we are insanely talented. And if you are too stupid to not follow us yet, we're not gonna say thank you later. But with that being said, difficult podcasters, Kellie and Ronnie, amazing. Cheers. Ronnie Rose.
Yes.
Okay. So, shall we dive into the episode?
Hey.
Shall we dive into the episode,
Let's
Kellie?
Do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, let's do it. This was a great episode. You've got, a Bat Mitzvah. Marilyn's coming into her own, finally becoming a woman after all these years. We've got Billy and Julie doing Billy and Julie things. Like it's such a fun episode. Julie actually gets a job.
Yes. Oh, like man. Well, she never could carry through or follow through with anything. Never.
No. But she does get pretty creative though with her lies. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. She's quick on her feet, I guess.
Of making excuses. Like she's the quickest excuse maker I think I've ever seen. As far as like, because the whole fake it till you make it, you get a job, but then you get in there and you kind of like figure out how to do it. Like she gets in there and just figures out how to make excuse after excuse after excuse so she doesn't have to do it.
Well, I've told you here on this show, I don't really call them excuses. I call them reasons. It's almost therapeutic to know why something happens. You don't agree? Yeah.
Reasons.
Or if you're complaining, are you really complaining or are you really communicating? See, you got to dress it up in a certain way. I'm just saying.
I mean, glass half empty, glass half full, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's good to see Julie try. Give a little effort. Yeah.
And she's got this new job, but then she also gets direction from Marilyn to help plan this Bat Mitzvah. She needs to do the invitations, the cake, and write the best speech ever. And I like how she's like, Mom, that's a lot of responsibility. Like, how do you think I have time for that?
Mm-hmm.
And what does she tell her? She's
I seen your Instagram. You ain't doing nothing. Yeah.
You're not doing nothing.
Yeah. Well, that's how it always works. You really aren't doing anything. And then suddenly you have the job that's kind of, taking all your time, and you have a family event. I mean, we both know that well, dividing our time between work, family, all the stuff. It's interesting to see her
all the stuff.
Before she gets into the writer's room, she talks with the guy. There's some less than, I mean, they were funny, but also a little harsh, jokes that she made about a pregnancy or whatnot. But it just is so in line with our Julie. And yeah, how'd you feel watching that a little bit? And even him, he was like,
I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was funny. It's well, because she speaks about him somebody that, you know, was an old friend, but it was somebody that she had slept with, and she is just trying to use him to get a job and, you know, catch up. They go to chit chat, and you know, he's relieved that she's only asking for a job. And, you know, and he's like, I'm just glad you're not saying we have like a 12-year-old kid somewhere.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, I was never pregnant. I was just use that money for something
else. Yeah.
So clearly she's been Julie for a long time.
Oh yeah. But yeah. She only gets worse.
She hasn't changed much.
She only gets worse with age.
No, yeah. It's gotten progressively worse. Exactly.
Like me. No, she goes.
But I like how.
Oh, go.
No, I was gonna say, like, I like how, like, after they're chatting, that, you know, when she's, you know, she said, you know, I feel like it's important for me to tell you, like, I have a boyfriend, and he's like, oh yeah. No, I wasn't gonna make a pass at you. Like, I'm sober now.
That
she's
one
like,
hurt.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like she even walked grumpy. Like all of a sudden her shoulders started to arc a little bit, and she was like, damn, like, that's so unkind. See, it doesn't feel good when people talk that way.
It was completely passive aggressive, like rude. Like, oh yeah. Well, shit, now that you're sober, I'm not good enough to find attractive. Like, what the hell?
In a second, I want to. Well, that's how most of the hookups happen sometimes. Okay, question to you. I said I didn't like fake it till you make it, but you say there's a level of industry that you sort of have to do that. Do you mean, say you could do a job regarding if you don't necessarily know you could do it, or do you mean like really just fake it completely? I always want to get hired based on like the resume is pretty good. We want to work with you. You didn't blow no smoke up our ass. But if you give them a hint of, hey, and I've said this in interviews, gosh, hey, I'm really good at this, but like an area that I think I could grow on is this, because, you know, technically, and I feel like I'm giving such honesty, and they're going to appreciate it more. And then it turns out they always hire the dummy who knows way less than me and says they could fly to the moon. And it's like, it's so hurtful or frustrating.
Well, I came from very humble beginnings, and you know, they still are, but you know, when I moved out to California, you know, by myself, I didn't really have any entertainment experience aside from I worked the boards and promotions at a radio station here in Texas, but that was like the extent of it. I didn't really do, you know, much of anything else in the entertainment space. So when I got out to LA and I kind of hit my wall at the station, because, you know, there weren't many places to go for advancement, because there were so many people that worked there and they were great, but they weren't going to leave their job. So it was, I was going to always be where I was at.
Some of them still work there.
Yeah. And some of them are still there. Yeah. So I started looking into other avenues, and that's how I became a publicist. I just kind of said I did these things that I never did. And I, you know, learned how to be one on my first job. So yeah. I totally did the fake it till you make it. I mean, a lot of the elements of the job were part of things we did at the radio station, but not exactly. Yeah. So I just kind of like elaborated on certain things, and I was like, I'll figure it out. And you know, 20 years later, I had that career for 20 years. So I did, but it got me in the door to say I was a little bit more experienced than I actually was. But I also had to prove that I had the skill. Like, I had to make myself learn how to keep the job, which I think is the difference here. Yeah.
I just you make a lot of sense. And this is, I should do that a little bit better, because I really do tend to give them too much honesty, too much like, well, I was really great at this, but this is a place where I would like really would work better with the team. And I kind of have this like false sense of they're going to be like, hey, Ronnie, I got to tell you, nobody keeps it funky like that. From that honesty, we really want to work with you. And that is, to me, so here's where, but okay, this is now our therapy, and we'll get back to the show in a moment, because I've heard you say what you said before, and I noted it. It's great information. Take what you kind of already do, embellish a little, fake it till you make it to a degree, but still walk through that door and be the publicist you need to be. But for me, I feel like the reason I mess up is I think, maybe I'm wrong, that if I was the person hiring, I'd want a Ronnie. I would want somebody
and
to
that's
be
the
like,
thing is you don't.
You don't think I would?
You don't, because you don't have the time. No, because you don't, depending on what the position is, you don't have the time to nurture someone in what you're hiring for. Now, for them to move above
tough.
what you're hiring for, yes, of course, you want to help somebody grow and get to the next level. But depending on what the position is, especially if it's not entry level, you're not trying to mold somebody to fit the position. You need somebody that already fits it for timing and for just, what's the word I'm looking for? You need
efficiency.
To get the job done. So being efficient. And for efficiency and stuff. So it just, that's where that gets tricky. Because yes, on the one hand, honesty is good. But on the other hand, when you're hiring, because like, I need someone that knows the basics of what this job is. And yes, I would love to nurture them and help them grow to get to the next level so they have the opportunities to continue on this career path. But I can't do that out of the gate because I need somebody who knows what they're doing to fill it in, which is why I would just say, I already knew how to do this. And then I would get there, look it up, and then do homework essentially and learn how to like teach myself how to do it. In the recent, a lot of questions.
In the recent years, I've said that actually one of my best friends, he owns his own business as well in the production field, does great work. And he's always like, Ronnie, you got to really look at yourself. You got a lot going for you. And I'm always like, yeah, but I haven't worked at this job and I haven't worked this facet of the industry. And he's always like, Ronnie, you can though. And even if it's shaky at the beginning, like you could do it. Like if you add radio to production, to the podcast industry, to the, the series we did at Complex, to Fuse Television, like, there's so many different America's Got Talent. There's so many jobs I've worked that you can string it together. And one of my friends, he told me that too. He's like, you got to just say you can do it. Because when you get the job, guess what? You're going to do it. And so lately I've been like, I guess that's true.
You're going to figure it out. Yeah.
Nothing's going to intimidate me.
You have to stop focusing on what you can't do. You need to focus on what you can do. That's the black and white, right? Yeah, you're like focusing on what you feel you're not so strong at. But just because you're way more critical of yourself, as we all are, than anyone will ever be of you, you don't know that you're lacking as much as you think you are in those aspects. Yeah. Because when we worked in radio, we did so many different things that it's not just a radio job, which is why I took that and broke it apart and presented myself to, for publicity and stuff, and started out as an assistant. And, and I was very fortunate that the jobs I did end up getting, these people were harsh and they were tough on me, but it forced me to get it together to learn if this was something I really wanted to do, which I feel that's where the disconnect is for Julie. Because she's very good at the confidence of getting herself in the room and getting herself hired. She just doesn't know how to stay there because she's lazy and she doesn't want to do the work that it takes to stay in the job. She wants to keep making the reasons or the excuses as to why she doesn't have to actually perform.
So that's when fake it till you make it.
Because she doesn't really want to do that job anyway. Right.
Well, that's when fake it till you make it bites you in the ass. Like if you're going to say you could do it, you better do it. She doesn't want to do that job. She just wants a writing job in general. On one level, there is compromise. Like it's still a great writing job, but it's so far from what she wants to do. They don't. I don't know how I feel about that, because you have to do a lot of jobs you don't want to do, but then that's a challenging situation too, because a woman in the writer's room with a bunch of men who aren't really listening to her voice. But then again, I'll say it like this. That's not her best fit, the best usage of her creativity, the best usage of her work. But if you're gonna commit to something, you might as well do it all the way. I was told that I was the story machine by the gentleman that's in the coma. I mean, we could call him, but he's in that coma.
Oh, she rode that coma all the way, didn't she?
Oh, a triangle. Him and I, we used to do the whatever she said, and she's like, he'd tell you right now, but he's in that. He's in that
double helix.
The double helix. He's in that coma, so we can't ask him, but he would tell you. He would tell you. Oh wow, She blatantly lied. But I rooted for her the whole time. I rooted for her because they were kind of
well, I thought she was gonna come up with I thought she was gonna pull it out and pull, like come up with a great story, and alas, she did not.
Not at all. They said she only made one funny joke. What was it? It was a joke about
because they had to work overtime, and she was like, isn't there like a writers union to protect us from the shit? And they were like, oh, she finally said something funny.
Yeah. She's like, oh, we gotta stay late because he got divorced from his wife. They're like, yeah, that's what it is. Did you ever have dream, because you love film, you love great storytelling. Had you ever wanted to have a part of you that would want to be in a writer's room, or do you more so like to write independently?
I actually wanted to make movies, yes, but I wanted to do more of like the directing and like editing and stuff. Okay. I think I'm a pretty decent writer, but I don't feel like that's one of my biggest strengths. So I would definitely look to people that are way more talented in that aspect than me to take like story ideas. Like I'm a good editor, but I'm not necessarily like the best like writer. So I feel like I can, I definitely would want to be collaborative on that. But yeah, for sure. I went to film school. Like I love that whole aspect of creating the art and like all of that stuff. So
did you feel
maybe one day,
you're gonna do it. There's many things you haven't done,
there is,
and don't have the possibility. So did you feel any sadness or like, typical, when you see her feeling so uncomfortable with all the guys? I mean, it wasn't that she was uncomfortable, but she was like, women, I hate them. Did you feel like, did it open you?
No, I felt I felt like I could relate to that so much. I dealt with, not to the extreme of that, but being a woman and a young woman in a predominantly male executive industry was a very tough thing for me throughout my entire career. Is just one, looking young, seeming young, being young, and then also being a woman to be heard. And it was always kind of like, having to stomp my feet a little bit and be like, listen. But on the other side of that, I also had a lot of, male people in my, career path that did let, hear me, listen to me, and let me kind of like create my own way of being a publicist in the way that I thought one should be. So I did have a lot of creative freedom, and, the pounding your fists and saying, hold on and listen for a second, it did work. And and it was great, but I definitely related to that because there were some instances where I did feel a lot like that. Again, not to that extreme, but, and I think a lot of female, people in the space will say the same. It's just, sometimes it's that you're just dismissive, and it's like, oh, you're just emotional. Oh, you're just this because you're a woman.
Emotional.
Back to the, emotional is like the worst thing. Like a guy can, that's the biggest divide, right? Because a woman like has an outburst or gets angry and she's emotional, she's being ridiculous, she's overreactive. But a guy does it and he's being assertive and he's taking charge, and he, that's the biggest divide in the whole thing, which is so unfortunate. And I feel like a lot of women get a bad rap and being labeled like, hard to work with or a bitch or whatever because of those things, because they're emotional.
You don't get to be taken seriously because of that.
No. It's changed a lot and evolved a lot now, which I think is fantastic. And I hope that it continues on that trajectory to do that. But, it's definitely a challenge that I faced a lot to be taken seriously, because I felt like sometimes it would be like, oh, you're so cute, let the grown-ups handle it. And I'd be like, oh, fuck you. I'm like a lot older than you think I am.
I almost didn't want to.
That was probably like the worst shit.
I almost didn't want to ask you, because I'm like, I've asked it before when it came up in conversation, and I feel like some women don't want to give it too much energy, like it's bullshit, we went through it, but like, they just want to talk about it. So it's kind of nice to hear your perspective of it, because the thing is, if you don't ask the questions, how is the outsider of that situation going to know what y'all really went through? So that was good.
Yeah. Or
and
it's like the people that would take your ideas and then pass it off as their own.
Yeah.
You know, that was also like hard to take, where it would be like they want to just collaborate with you and you know, one-on-one to take what you say and not really give you the credit for it. I mean, that happened countless times. And the whole thing is like, but it's a team effort. So it doesn't really matter who gets the credit. Right. We're all, all of that shit. Where on one hand, it doesn't. And, I never really wanted to be the center of attention and all of that shit anyway. Like I always just wanted to do a good job. And, but I think that was one of the difficult things for me, is because I felt like I was constantly like fighting this uphill battle just to get recognized for the work that I was doing. And then, so it kind of took the fun out of it a bit for me, which I allowed that to happen. And I wish I wouldn't have so much, I think.
So if you needed to
if you're doing what Julie does and you're just in the room, not, just not doing the job, well then, there's nothing to feel bad about. You weren't doing it anyway.
I like how she goes against like rule number 1. I don't like that. They're like, okay, well, what do you have? She's like, oh no, I just don't like that. Just don't like it. They're like, well, what do you have as a alternate idea? Oh, I don't have anything yet, but I definitely don't like that. It's like, come on, you lied your way in there.
But that just doesn't work. I know that much.
Yeah. I can tell you that's stupid, actually. I can tell you how stupid that is if you got 20 minutes. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, but it's it's interesting, like thinking back on all of that now, but it's funny. And of course you live and you learn, and it's that whole thing that your parents tell you, like once you get older you'll reevaluate and blah 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 blah, and it's 100% true. Like looking back on things, like I wish I could alter some of my reactions on things and how I took things, and maybe my reactions be a little different, or not taking them as personal, and maybe I would have been things would have been a little different for me. But at the end of the day, I mean, that's just kind of what everybody goes through, I think, at some point.
That's an episode in itself. Like those, they wouldn't be called regrets, but like how you would do it differently, And again, a lot of what I've done, you could look at it as like, Ronnie, you haven't achieved certain things because you haven't. And maybe there's parts of that that's true. But then there's parts of it that I have decided, I've said, if I put in the work, it's going to equate something. If I go into an interview, and everyone's gassing them up, everyone's, blowing smoke up their ass, they're going to see through that. And then I'm going to come in authentically, and they're going to say, you know what? That's the kind of employee we like. Somebody who is actually authentic. That's somebody we want to work with for years and years and years. And I have this fantasy that that's the truth. And, as you said earlier, sometimes they don't have time.
And if you put it on your dream board as Julie and Billy created, which is essentially a vision, you never, and here's the thing, not to say that that's an impossible dream, because there could be. That is absolutely something, like a realistic thing. You could, create something with someone where they're like, yes, this authenticity and this honesty is a breath of fresh air. This is how I want to build my company. I mean, there's nothing wrong with aspiring to that. That's a great thing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, here's another thing. I feel like if I tried to give them that bullshit, they'd see through it really quickly. And so that's why I try not to do that. Yeah. And then another thing beyond that, well, I don't want to go on a tangent. Maybe I just messed up in interviews, but I have had people like really but
I think too, I think you're just a little too hard on yourself, which you shouldn't be. And I think while you're thinking that you're being honest, I think you're being a little too self-critical, and you are a very talented person in so many different ways.
That's right.
You need to try to own that a bit more, I think.
Yes, he is amazing.
Own that shit a little bit more.
Ronnie
is absolutely amazing. Absolutely.
He's amazing. Beautiful in every way.
Absolutely amazing.
That's the problem with me in general.
You can bullshit your way into a room. But I bet you, if you came up with the double helix, you'd actually explain it in a way that made sense because you would just think of that shit on the floor.
I would definitely keep on talking. I remember one time when I was a teenager, like first or second year driving, you know, with the car, and you get pulled over by a cop and like you just give all your answers of like, oh, you know, this and this, and I was going from this job to this job to this job, and the guy goes, listen, you talked my ear off for like 20 minutes. Watch it on this hill. Decrease your speed on this hill, but I don't ever need to hear you talk for 20 minutes. And I literally was just like, but this happened and this happened and this happened and this happened. And, you know, if I get a $45 ticket, like that goes against, or whatever the ticket price was, that goes against me working a third job. Yeah. And the reason I'm working a third job is because I'm trying to acquire my dreams. And when I get my dreams, this is going to happen. But at the moment, that's a restriction. It's just not a possibility. And see, I chose to work over here, which actually, sir, I would like to tell you, Officer Blankety Blank, I could have worked over here, but I had thought it would be a more rounded experience to work over here. Like I just was nonstop. And so, you know what, Kelly, my special brand of amazingness, somebody's going to see it one day. I mean, you've already saw it. So there you go. I have a question for you.
I see it right now. I see it. I appreciate it. I love it. I aspire to a lot of it. Like I definitely appreciate you.
He is amazing.
And see, that's like Billy seeing the greatness in Julie and Julie seeing the potential and the greatness in Bill, like them speaking within each other, but they just can't translate it out into the world yet.
Sure. Can I ask you a question that's not necessarily to the episode, but important? First of all, have you ever done a vision board? Have you ever done one at all? And also, what if you were doing a vision board today going forward, what are some of the items you would put on your vision board? Billy put Nick Jonas's abs on his vision board. What are some of the things? You don't have to give all of your life secrets away, but have you done a vision board? And also, what would be some of your items?
I have wanted to do a vision board. I have yet to actually complete one.
That shocks me.
No, I haven't. That's probably why a lot of my visions have not come to life yet, because I haven't like put it on the board yet. But I believe in the power of the vision board, and for whatever reason, I just haven't, pulled the trigger and actually create. I think I've probably started one but never finished it. But today on my vision board, I think it would be, I would definitely put more of a focus on like a relationship, which is something I've never done before. So I would put that out there in the world, and just, building my business with better, like a better balance with social and work time, and just more fun things, like adding more fun things to do that aren't work related. I definitely need to focus on more like social time versus working time. That's what I want for my life.
I'm gonna do
and cooking. I love cooking. I want to make some, I want to do more cooking stuff.
I'm gonna do a vision board. And maybe there's Nick Jonas's abs on the vision board as well, like Billy on the show. It's funny because I sometimes don't know, like, should you do it 3 different levels of a vision board? Should you do like relationship, career, or do you just blend it all together? Because I'm not somebody who defines like, okay,
all together, it's a collage.
I'm not somebody who defines like you have to get married as like the pinnacle of like life success. Like I feel like, not everyone has to have children. I'm like really good with that. So then I was trying to figure out, well, at the same time, if I do a vision board, I don't want to necessarily negate that part, because, I'll happily be in love, but I'm also very okay with, being an amazing single person. So then I was like, well, what I will put on the vision board is, if I were to get married, and I think the answer to this already, I'm not sure, I'm going to put on the vision board my wedding song, because I am Ronnie Romance, sappy motherfucker. And it has to be the perfect wedding song.
Oh, I love it.
So my wedding song, on the vision board, I'll cut it out like the album cover or whatever, artwork of the song. And it's going to be Sade, Your Love is King is on my vision board. Meaning when Ronnie gets married, you'll be at the wedding and you'll be like, cling, 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 cling. Yeah. So that, and really,
I love it.
I haven't done a lot of career travel or life travel. You know, I think you've done a lot of travel through work, and some like actual just fun. I have been head in the sand to achieve a career, and it's taken away from just getting to see the world. So a high priority would be that. Another priority would be something in the vein of decoration. I'm not a have to live in a house with a big yard. You know, I always say, give me a little condo with a little terrace. I just want to be mobile. I don't want to confine my life to a house. But on the flip side of that, design, decor, like such an oasis, such a sanctuary is big for me. So those are some of the 3 things that I would put on my vision board.
I love that.
And
okay, well, let's do this.
Huh?
Let's make vision boards and then we'll show them.
Well, you twisted my arm just like she did when she said I'll be drinking wine. I says, well, shit, I will too. So cheers to our upcoming vision boards, the next tier of our podcast. And in my vision board, there will be something in the correlation of podcast growth or radio growth or talk show, because you never know what's going to happen in the next couple of years as far as what's going to be the big thing. But either way, I would like to see us succeed. And I mean, we already are. So
me too. Cheers.
Anyhow, vision boards. I believe in them. I believe in them.
What else in this episode? I do too.
Yeah. Well, I believe in like, you know, manifesting something as much as I believe in don't summons that shit. don't bring the negative shit either. You know what I mean? Like the other day when you were talking about,
definitely.
Yeah, you were talking about
the good stuff for sure is a big thing.
You were talking about that movie where it was a violence, like Halloween movie. It wasn't Halloween, but it was like a dating movie. And I was like, Kelly's making these jokes. I was like, oh no, Kellie. We don't summons that shit. We don't summons that energy. Not here with Ronnie. No. So anyways, lots of visions going on in this episode. Very good.
Well, I love that, you know, Marilyn is kind of doing this whole reflection on her life, and she's going back and, you know, having this, you know, like out, you know, coming of, you know, being a woman and stuff was very important to her. So she's going through the motions of having this event with, you know, some younger girls that are at the normal age.
Yeah, 12 years old or whatever.
Event.
Yeah.
Yes. And one of them is you know, a little mean, and I love how Marilyn's kind of like coming for her, but then she's also trying to relate to her.
Yeah.
Unsuccessfully, but she's, you know, she's trying.
She's tries,
trying.
And then when it doesn't work, she like gets mad like Marilyn can get, but she keeps trying throughout the course of the episode. So, you know, she cared about being validated through them a little bit. And I love the actor too. I don't think he's with us anymore, but he was also on that show that I love, Mozart in the Jungle. So I liked his role in it as well. Just the way he balanced the young girls in regards to them getting ready for their bat mitzvah, and then Marilyn and just the kookiness of it. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, and then we've got Billy's, you know, childhood hero, you know, a celebrity that he had written a letter, one of the celebrities he had written a letter to, that comes out of the woodwork and, you know, answers his letter and then tries to get him to edit his manuscript, his one-man show, and says he's like dying and so he needs help. The whole thing turns out to be a scam.
He's so actually not weird.
Dying. He just wanted free editing and free notes.
That was so weird.
Have you met like a childhood hero of yours, or any like celebrity that you really looked up to and had any like real one-on-one interaction with them?
No, but I'm trying to think who in the 80s I liked. Yeah, because it was an 80s baby, so that would have been that era. And it's really just all the big people, you know, like the Janets and the Madonnas or whatever. Conversely though, I like what I like. But there was that young age where I was like, oh, wow. Do you remember Tony Danza's movie with Micky Dolenz' daughter, Amy, that was in the movie? It was something where
she's out of control?
you know, it had young Ronnie, who was exactly that same age, feeling his hormones. Yes, yes. You know, before the ship went the other way, I was like, oh wow. And she comes down the stairs and the Venus song is on, and Tony Danza's like, what in the heck? Yeah. So it's so interesting. That's such a memory. But no, have you? I don't think I've pen palled anybody. Yeah, the closest we were around, because I tell you, we grew up in a sports family, was those damn Dodgers. That's like we always were getting little autographs from them or whatever. But I wasn't necessarily starstruck because, you know, it was baseball. But no, I don't know. Have you had that kind of moment where you had to write a letter?
No, I never wrote a letter to anyone. No, but I've been fortunate enough to be able to interact with a lot of people that I really respected and really enjoyed their work, and have been able to tell them that. I think, you know, one of the ones that was, you know, like a childhood favorite of mine was like the Corey Feldman and Corey Haim. I mean, who didn't watch all of their movies when we were younger? You know, the Goonies, Stand By Me, License to Drive.
License
to
Drive was
yeah, I mean, there was, you know, Dream a Little Dream. There's like a ton of really, really great movies, and I got to chat with them and see them and stuff, and that was really fun and really neat, amongst, you know, a few others that have been really fun. But it's always kind of, I'm always really cautious because I don't want anyone to kind of taint this idea that I have of them in my head. So it's I'm always really nervous to meet someone that I actually enjoy and that I really like, because then if they suck, I'm like, fuck, you just ruined like all my movies for me.
It's a good point though that you make, because I'm thinking, I've interviewed Corey Feldman before, and it's like, that is true. You watch them in the young movies, and then as you make your way into your career, like you with working as a publicist or just events or radio or whatever it is, you find yourself like sitting with them just in a very regular way. And so then it doesn't seem as daunting when you're doing the task. It's when you go home the next day, you're like, oh wow, I watched 6 of his movies and I wasn't even starstruck, you know. And that's a personality trait, you know, if you're going to be starstruck or not. I always say, though I like J-Lo a lot, I mean, probably I'd be starstruck because it'd be such a busy thing, you know, with all the people and her huge team and stylist and makeup and hair. It would be overwhelming. But the one I'm really nervous to meet is Rosario Dawson, because I just freaking love her so much, you know, and I just feel like she's such an intelligent, but
really,
oh yeah, she's like intelligent yet silly and sexy. She's like got it all. She's just like put everything in a blender. And there's Rosario. So I would be a little nervous to talk to her. I'd probably be nervous to talk to like the, you know, the actual stars. This day and age, everyone's a star. Reality TV is a star. But the ones like on Broadway that are just legends, like stuff like that, I'd be like, oh God, do I have the chops to speak with them, you know? So I'd feel weird. Yeah. So, and maybe I would do just what Billy did, and I would be like, okay, Micky Dolenz, yes, let's go do this. But I like the way that he used that as being so insecure in his youth, and it was just like reaching out and connecting through the television. That's the part of this episode that I liked. I always say how I was such in a sports household, but it was listening to certain music and watching certain music videos, you know, freestyle music, you know, really was like a vibe, you know. All the music videos that I liked were all like New York City was like the backdrop. I grew up in California. And so it is interesting to see where you're like grabbing where you would like to go and that influence. And I think Billy's naiveness and excitement was really refreshing.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think it's really, you know, it's really fun when you have the opportunity to kind of interact with someone where it's a little bit more than just taking a photo, because that's not a real interaction. You know, that's of the opportunity to have, you know, more than like a one sentence conversation it gives you a little insight that, you know, these are, you know, the stars, they're just like us, you know, but it also like brings them a little bit more into a tangible, relatable area that you can recognize and appreciate the talents and the things that they do and the things that they go through and stuff. And I've just always loved and appreciated art and, you know, performance art. And I love that even here, like as crazy as it was and as unfortunate, you know, there's also the ones that are like him that try to take advantage and, you know, aren't who you think they are and, you know, are very disappointing, which is unfortunate. And that's always been my fear. But I can't think of a time where I was disappointed like that off the top of my head. So I think that's a good thing.
I think there's, I get more moments where I refer to my mom. Maybe it's me protecting myself so I don't have to get nervous and say anything like, I liked you. And then being shitty, you know, hypothetically. I usually go in it with like, oh, you know, doing like a press junket or something, but that's a quick meeting. But still, hey, Whoopi Goldberg, oh my God, my mom loves watching you on The View. So then it's like in the vein of like, well, tell mom I said hi, you know, stuff like that. It's not necessarily you.
Yeah.
You run the risk of them being not so nice. And luckily, Whoopi was nice. And in a press junket, it's very quick. But the person I saw in New York twice in the streets was Gloria Estefan.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And so, you know, you just got to have a little conversation. And that was, you know, it wasn't like working with her or anything like that. But one was an interview and one was just in the streets. And it was funny because in the interview, I said, the first celebrity I met in New York City was guess who? And she was like, me. And she also had really funny stories about how she's only dated Emilio. And I says, oh my gosh, you know, did you want a little more action out there? You know, like look around, try out the merchandise. And she goes, when you have filet mignon at home, you don't need a hamburger or something like that. Nice. So I was like, she's so funny.
That's cute.
Yeah. So
that's funny.
The people we grew up with, yeah, because Gloria Estefan was like, you know, I'd be a little 8-year-old and my parents would be going to her concert. So it is nice to have that experience.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's really cool. I mean, one of the first celebrities that I had met when before I even moved out to California was like Joey from New Kids on the Block. And that was super cool. It was when he had his own album and he was promoting it and stuff. So that was super neat. And then like, you know, I've interacted a little bit with like Debbie Gibson on Instagram, which is super fun, you know, fun because, you know, she was a childhood, you know, loved all of her albums, saw her in concert, like all that. So that kind of stuff is really neat. So I love like this interaction with him and how he's still so excited when he first sees them. And it's just like, you know, wow, like all that admiration is still there until like he gets played by him. But yeah, you know, it happens.
I have no idea why he was putting Billy to that situation, but he was. It wasn't bad, but it was a waste of his time. Yeah.
And then Julie completely dropped the ball on this Bat Mitzvah party because she's too wrapped up in this writer's room job that she doesn't even know how to do anyway, and forgets to plan this party and invite anybody. She just picks the cake. Yeah. That's about the extent of what she got done. But I will say that she got paid for her job and she sacrificed her paycheck to make sure there were stand-ins for Marilyn's event so she wouldn't feel like nobody was there. So that in itself was an endearing gesture. Because she had her little stand-in job with Kellie.
They love each other. They just argue because they're very similar, you know. So
yeah.
And she went to the stand-in. He was like, I got more work for you. She's like, no, I want to pay you to get a bunch of heads over here immediately.
Great. So her little selfless act after being so, but she made up for it to get some strangers there.
Yeah.
Seat fillers. Just fill those seats.
Yeah, make it a moment. Good job, Julie.
Absolutely. Yeah, and she wrote her a cute little speech based off of that, you know, writer's diamond that actually works that she was trying to get out of doing. So
turns out it works pretty good.
She learned how to do the exercise. So hopefully it'll help her in the future with her future endeavors. We shall see.
Once again, so close yet so far. So close.
I know.
the careers of these two. I like that we're getting a lot of audition moments and a lot of like, you know, I met so-and-so, you know, a casting director, I met this manager. I love that part of this show. I think, you know, it's one of my favorite parts. So I like all the other stuff too, but that's like, you know, it excites me because I like to see them get close to opportunity. So yeah, that's all I got. The episode was brought to you by
I loved it. Viridian Row. So please visit viridianrow.com. Check out their fun apparel lines for the whole family, your pets too, and they've got some cute home decor, and you can also customize your stuff. So please visit www.viridianrow.com.
And just think about it like this: you're supporting all these big corporations, and you don't know what they're supporting. So it's nicer to have
the little guys, little ladies,
a homegrown organic product. It's nice when all of our friends have different products. Like one of my friends, they have a candle company, Center In, and it's so refreshing to see my friend TK, who is pursuing herself, you know, as a television host too. But then her other endeavor is, you know, I think she's got like lotions and all these things. So we support the small businesses around here. Our show is brought to you by Viridian Row, as Kelly said. I guess that's it. Any last words of encouragement?
No, it's just I'm sad it's almost gone. We've only got a few episodes left, but I am super excited to see what our little show is going to do next and the direction that we're going to go in. So you guys stay tuned for that. You know, please go on social, share the show, leave any comments or anything that you like the show or things you think, you know, we can change, or join the conversation and help us get into that algorithm rhythm.
Just don't say
any support that you give, we really appreciate.
Just don't say, hey guys, it turns out your Wi-Fi is bad. You might want to fix that. Because then I'll start getting real mad. I'll be like, well, why don't you write a positive comment? Why don't you help out too? You think we want this shitty Wi-Fi?
Sorry. Yes. We know already. We see it. We
know
it.
Our jokes sound like
we're working on it.
Okay. I need a
we're
nap.
We're just doing the remix.
I need a nap. I need to finish this rosé, and I may have a second one. Kelly, you're delightful as always. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.
Cheers to that. Bye, guys.